some of the very important issues that I want to take a few minutes to discuss and talk about inclement weather decisions, because there's been a lot of discussion about those in recent days. I'm fully aware of the number of emails that the 8 school board members have received regarding our decisions. As you all know, as a community, we have been very transparent about our plans in the case of inclement weather, and we've done that earlier in the school year where that was approved. The other piece that I want to share with many of our parents and community members who have submitted emails, I received a number of those emails today. I've responded to the vast majority of those emails. I even encouraged people to log in onto the board meeting tonight to listen to the superintendent's report in an effort to try to help provide some more context. And I have to say this before I read this. This is one of the things that any superintendent would tell you is probably the absolute worst part of our decision making as leaders. I've been doing this for 8 years, 8.5 years now. I don't know a single time that I have made a call to close school or delay school or do an early dismissal where it was met with a whole bunch of positivity. And so there's nothing different about what we have experienced here in Anne Arundel County. And so I do understand as a parent the frustrations. I too am a parent in this school district. I understand the frustrations of your kid not being able to get on today, and we will talk about that. I also experienced it as a parent. My daughter also could not get on this morning because of the bottlenecking that occurred with Bright Space. But let me go into giving you all the update around how complicated this process is. As I said during my report at the last board meeting, these decisions are never easy, and there are many complicating factors. I would like to talk through the last several, though, to help people understand what went into these decisions. The 2-hour early dismissal on January 9th was prompted by a solid forecast for significant rain and heavy wind. We were concerned about getting students home once we got them into our buildings. We made that call and we communicated it the night before. On January 10th, we made a decision to change the asynchronous instruction, and it was because of 2 key factors: flooded roads that prevented safe travel to school for significant numbers of students and employees, downed power lines, more than 13,000 people without power when we met to make the decision. That's why we went to asynchronous instruction. It allowed people without power to log on when their power came on. It also alleviated pressure for teachers who may have been without power. I've received some emails where people were saying, you all knew you were going to cancel the following morning, so why would you just give us this delayed announcement just to then go and cancel? We were in the same boat as every other school district. You cannot predict weather patterns. You cannot predict the amount of damage that will happen in a particular community. So it may look different from one county to another. So that is the reason why we had to wait until we made that decision in the morning. And I know that we made an announcement that we would let families know by 7:30. I believe we ended up notifying families by 7:25. I own that. We learned from that, and the next time that we had to make a decision, we made sure that we notified families by 7 a.m. So this is my first time as a superintendent going through the process here in Anne Arundel County, and these are first-time events in some cases that we're experiencing like today. And so I will not sit up here as a superintendent and proclaim that everything was perfect, because everything wasn't. But what I will say is, early on, I 100% stand behind the decisions that we have had to make in these 3 different days of that we're discussing. Yesterday was the easiest call so far. There was too much snow, too many hazardous roads. So we did what I said we would do in those circumstances, and we gave everybody a traditional snow day. I promised that we would not take away traditional snow days. I saw a number of pictures of staff members enjoying that day with their children. I too went outside and had a chance to build a snowman with my daughter. And so I want people to know that we take these traditional snow days very seriously, which also means that in order to honor those traditional snow days, there are going to be days where we know there's not opportunities to go outside and play in snow, that we have to then utilize some of our virtual learning modalities in order to protect people calendars when we get into the month of June. Today's decision was complicated by the planned 2-hour early dismissal to provide teachers with negotiated time to complete grades for the second marking period. It was clear to us that ice on the roads was going to be a big deal, so bringing students and staff into schools was not an option. However, we had 4 choices. Option 1, call off the day like we did yesterday. That would have extended the school year by another day and forced a change in the semester break planned for Friday, because our calendar and our TAC negotiated agreement call for 2 consecutive early release days at the end of the second marking period prior to 1 non-student day was in play. Additionally, which we have not added in here that I will add, had we made that decision and we're talking about shifting to Friday, there's no guarantee that we're going to have school, that we would have been able to have school on Friday, because Friday we're expecting another storm. So to then disrupt the calendars and the schedules of parents who have already made arrangements on Friday, it really was a perfect storm for why we had to take the route that we had to take today, because there's no guarantee that Friday would have been a day to have school. Option 2, shift 2-hour early dismissal to a 2-hour late arrival. This was not a good option for 2 reasons. First, parents and employees were likely unaware this was even a possibility. So moving schedules at such a late date would be problematic. But second, because of the temperatures, the road conditions at 7 a.m. were likely to be the same as they would be at 9 a.m. So shifting gained us nothing in terms of safer travel. And if you were watching the news earlier today, there were other school districts who had a delay. And then because they saw that some of the icy conditions weren't going to improve, they decided to call the day for school today, where they did not have school. So once again, I felt that we made the right decision. Option 3, move to virtual asynchronous instruction. The state allows us 8 days of virtual instruction, but only 3 of those can be asynchronous. So it's not that easy to move and pivot to an asynchronous day. We felt we didn't want to use a second one at this juncture, especially because there were few power issues impacting us this morning. Option 4, virtual synchronous instruction. This allowed for a predetermined and published schedule to be used, which was presented to our community and to our workforce earlier this school year. After much discussion, it was the best option for us to continue instruction and prevent an extension of the school year or a slide, at least at this point, in the semester break day planned for this Friday. Now, with this particular decision to have synchronous today, I've asked my team to provide for me when I started in Anne Arundel County, July 1. I came to a commencement sometime in June. And even before I got here, I heard a lot of complaining about the fact that we're not getting out of school until nearly July. So I asked them, April 7th, this went out. Last day for most students set for June 24th, 2022. Now, we all know what happens once graduation has occurred, once state testing has taken place, and we're adding days on. I'm certain if I pulled the school district's attendance rates, which I should have pulled, they were probably far more deplorable than what happened today, where we had over 65 students who logged in. 65,000. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, 65,000 for the record. So this is another example of us trying to utilize the tools that we have in our toolbox to not put our families, our students, and our educators in a position where they're going to have to change predetermined vacation days, or they're going to take vacation days, and we don't have educators here working with our kids, or our attendance rates really take a hit from a deplorable standpoint. Now, I will say there was some confusion about the schedule, and we took steps to try to correct that as quickly as we could. We'll continue those discussions, and we will try to make things even more clear should this situation come up again. But I must say this to everybody. This is Anne Arundel County Public Schools' first synchronous day since we've concluded COVID. I understand the trauma associated with what everybody went through with COVID. I went through it as a superintendent. It's not any type of trauma that I want to be associated with or want to rehash. But we also know that it's a tool. Today will be a great opportunity for us to look at lessons learned, to look at how we can improve it, because virtual learning isn't going anywhere, everybody. It's becoming a way of the world when you start moving to post-secondary opportunities. Many of our folks who do their doctoral degrees, most of that is done on a virtual learning platform. And so it's something that we have to work to embrace, and it's something that we have to work to fine-tune to make sure that our parents really feel that their kids are going to get the meaningful instruction that they deserve. I hope that this provides some insight into our decisions we arrived at over the last week or so. Now, I want to address today's synchronous instruction and the issues we had with Brightspace, because I think people need to know what happened. When we made the decision last night to move to virtual synchronous instruction, we informed Brightspace so they could increase the bandwidth and capacity. For reasons I don't yet fully understand, that didn't happen. It wasn't that AACPS was not prepared for today, but we have a partner that also has a responsibility. And when we talk about accountability, just like the number of emails that I've gotten about people, the superintendent needs to be held accountable, accountability happens all the way around. And as I've said to you all, I'm here owning what happened today. We worked quickly with the vendor through the morning and restored access as quickly as possible. It was not perfect. In fact, it was far from it. We have and will continue to address those issues with Brightspace. But the bottom line is that we got a day of instruction in, even though we had some issues early on at a critical time in the year, and did not have to move the semester break or use another inclement weather day. As we all know, this is just the beginning of winter. More is to come, and I'm going to knock on wood that I hope I'm wrong with that. And that brings me to my final point, and this is really important. I want to thank our amazing teachers, operations and support staff, principals and administrators, central office employees who have stepped up and pivoted over this last week to make instruction happen across this county. As stated earlier, this was not an easy decision to come to, so I want to thank you all again. Safety above all else, which is a major theme that continues to rise as we have our community conversations about the strategic plan, will always guide our decision-making for students, faculty, staff, families, and community at large.